And I did. I mean, I modestly advertised this like with a tweet or two earlier today, so I don't know if we'll get a lot of live stuff. So we'll see. I should have tagged Mike in this.
Okay, I think I got it now.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
All right.
Diggy, do you know Diggy?
I don't think we've met.
I don't think so either. Hey.
Diggy, this is Will. I think he's been on AwesomeCast once or twice. But one of the co-founders of Wrestling Mayhem Show, Panel Riot, hence his expertise here. And Diggy here, I know from doing AIGA and helping out a little bit there. What did I first have you on the show for? Was it to promote like the 365 thing?
I think so. No, I don't remember, to be honest.
How did we pass? How did we pass?
No, it could have been that.
Cross paths.
I've been on twice. I know I've been on twice, and I think once was to promote. I think you're right. One was to promote probably PGH 365, and I'm guessing the other time was to promote Pixels of Fury.
Pixels of Fury. Oh, wait, that was a bit ago, so you're overdue for an appearance, anyways. So instead,
yeah,
we have you.
Once grad school's done, my schedule's easier.
Nice. Let me know when you're like, hey,
I haven't even been putting out episodes of Creative Briefs. I have like 3 episodes recorded that I still need to post from like the fall.
I'm gonna pull this up in case we want to do a little bit of imagery. I didn't really set up you guys. I probably should just in case. You know what? No, I'll just do a full screen. We're going to cheat tonight. We're not going to do the super fancy thing because we're just... I don't even know if it's worthwhile since we don't really have a list of things. I'm just going to see where the conversation takes us. We'll kind of talk... We'll kind of set up that we were having a conversation, and then, Diggy, we'll kind of go into your comments and kind of take it from there. I'd say be careful a little bit, Will. I think, and everybody just kind of be weary because I think we have a little bit of a lag tonight. I think it's on John's end here, but I haven't really pinned it down just yet. So just kind of give a little bit of space and keep an ear out in case you're talking over somebody. I think we have that kind of like half-second thing going on right now. So let me just get a couple more shares out here. And like I said, we'll roll this live. Oh, sorry, I apparently have to schedule tomorrow's appointment too. So if you're on our live stream, we'll get going with the actual show in just a moment. And thank you if you're with us live. I haven't looked at the numbers yet to see if there's anybody hanging out there, but we'll see. At least somebody popped in for a moment. Do you want me just tag your Twitter at Diggy on this?
Sure.
All right. And I got panelriot.com for you, Will.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Is your microphone in the proper place?
My microphone?
Yeah.
I think. Does it sound weird?
Do you have... Check your setting. Make sure it's the right microphone's on.
Oh, that could be the problem.
I could be getting some kind of room mic. I'm not sure.
How's that?
No different.
No different. Okay. That's the one that was going before then. And better or worse?
Worse. Go back to the other one. Go back to the other one. Go back to the other one.
And better or worse?
Oh, way better, way better, way better, way better.
Oh, but now I have to hold this thing.
I know, but that's like kind of where it needs to be. All right.
I wonder if I can make it just the biggest lapel mic that's ever
There
happened.
you go. There you go. Make that happen. Make it work. Make sure the glowy thing's in the shot too. Obviously.
Turn it on. There we go. How's that?
I like it. It's hidden by the title. You're all right.
Can you hear me swallow now?
Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little. I'll let you know if we hear like breaths. Oh, I can completely see it glowing in your shirt on the wide shot. You know what? That's okay. I just want to see if anybody notices.
This is great. I wonder if I should do this in the future.
See, probably not. Probably not if you're just doing an audio show. See,
Then I can just
don't
lay
you
down and do it.
don't you miss doing Google Hangout?
I don't know. It's too soon to tell.
Okay, we'll see how this goes. Okay, and I have no timeline. Well, we'll go into the conversation. Seems like it should be
like
winding up.
I like that my little decorations are finally getting seen by more than just me.
Panel Rat goes video sooner or later, right?
What is the link for a live thing if people want to see it?
Live.sorgatronmedia.com, sir. Live.wrestlingmayhemshow.com. All goes to the same place.
All right.
All right. Let's roll with this then. Oh, let's hit record on some stuff. I don't know what I'm doing here on a Thursday. I'm not even supposed to be here today. All right. Let me know if you have any problems with that, because it's been like kind of misloading on me. Hey guys, it is the awesome Hey guys, it's the Awesome Cast, a special edition Awesome Cast / Panel Riot / something else entirely. Not so much the tech tonight, but we kind of ventured on a discussion a few weeks ago on the show that got a little bit of response. We were talking about Comic-Cons, and we're going to get in a little bit further discussion about like kind of what is the state of Comic-Cons, what's going on out there, and see how those are. We were very agreeable to Wizard World, and apparently that was a problem somewhere along the way. Mike Sorg at Sorgatron on the Twitter with an eclectic panel tonight. We got some feedback from our good friends, of course, Dan Greenwald of the Comic Book Pit. That couldn't make our scheduling. Everybody was on divergent schedules, unfortunately. But we do have a feedback from him. But with me, first of all, the guy that it's your fault this is happening, Diggy. John DeGore at Diggy on the Twitter. We'll get into why
I'm
that
happy
is.
about it. I'll take it.
But thank you. It's been so long since having you on. Of course, we had you on before talking about AIGA and the like here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I've been pretty busy with grad school, but I always make time to talk about comics. So I'm happy to give you my opinion on why I don't think Wizard World's necessarily the best thing ever.
All right. And also with us, I had to at least have somebody who was a professional comic book podcaster, and that guy is also the co-founder of Wrestling Mayhem Show, our flagship here at Sorgatron Media. Will Rutherford, yeah, that's his real name. PanelRiot.com is his fantastic show.
I guess I am a professional. You get past 60 episodes and you're considered a professional. And to that end, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's edition of Panel Riot. This week we are talking about conventions, and it's a podcast within a podcast because actually this is this week's edition of Awesome Cast.
Yes, it is. Is Stan in the corner?
Stan is in the corner. He is incredibly camera shy and too stoned to actually appear on camera. It's like a vampire thing. I don't really understand it, but he's out.
It happens. It happens to all of us. You should see me about the third hour into the wrestling podcast. But anyways, so we're having, like I said, we're having a discussion. Our boy Chilla was, as he does, he went to Philadelphia for Wizard World in particular, and he's been around to a few of them. I think he's been to New York Comic Con. He's been to C2E2. So it's not like he's like just does Wizard World or anything like that. He's been around to a few of the cons, and of course the ones here in Pittsburgh as well. And if you want to see a little bit of what exactly he has going on, you can go over to chillatech.net. Is his blog. It's kind of newer blog, and he's got some images and some write-ups about taking pictures at he's a bit of a photog as well, so you can check out some of his stuff and that initial conversation back on AwesomeCast 302. And I think we just did 304 this week, and who knows when you're going to listen to this, because we don't know when we're releasing it just yet. But you can go back and find that over at, like I said, chillatech.net. But we were discussing it, and I know I am a big fan that Wizard World has come to Pittsburgh, because I thought the con scene, after going to things like New York Comic Con and Baltimore Comic Con, I thought it was kind of sad in comparison. And I thought that was a general good thing, and I was glad to see it. Diggy, you had a different opinion, and I want to go right into that and what, I know there's like a bit of an air against Wizard World. I think I've heard the term of the McDonald's of Comic Cons or something along the lines. Can you explain kind of your take that you were hitting us up with after you listened to the show?
Yeah, I went to Wizard World back probably like 10 years ago, and in the early aughts in Philadelphia. And I'll admit, when I went then, it was great. I went to the one in Pittsburgh, and it just was not, I don't know, it wasn't a Comic Con to me. Like, there weren't a lot of comic vendors there anymore. It was more like a pop culture con, which is something that I think we already have going on pretty well with the Still City Con. And so when I saw that a Wizard World Con was coming here, I did get pretty excited. I was like, yeah, I can finally find some some long boxes and some cheap bins to like go through and find some stuff. And when it got here, I was just really underwhelmed. It's, to me, like going to a Comic Con, a traditional Comic Con is not just about celebrities, it's about artists, artist alley, like with some good comic book creators, and like just tables of long boxes for you to kind of troll through and find some stuff you were looking for, some cheaper items. Maybe you're trying to fill in a run of something small, like a really weird series. And when those things are gone, you don't really get the opportunity to do that. If you wanted to go put together a Spider-Man 2099 run, you're not going to be able to do that at the current Wizard World. I have no idea how Philly is now, because I haven't been there in, like I said, since in like 10 years. But if it's gone the route of the one here, then it's pretty disappointing, because then it's harder to find that experience. Because Steel City Con is more of a pop culture like Toy Con, and they have a couple guys with long boxes, but not that many. So when they made that from like Pittsburgh Comic Con to Pittsburgh Wizard Con, like all those vendors that were previously there putting out their long boxes were just gone, because they can no longer afford essentially to get the tables.
So Will, you've been to a few cons as well. I know you've been up for New York Comic Con with us. A few years ago, you've seen some of the cons around the area and such. What was your opinion? Like, what kind of experience are you looking for when you go out to one of these cons?
Well, I guess what I'm looking for is kind of somewhere in between. When I go to a con, I'm interested in sitting in on panels and hearing a lot of information and learning a lot, but I'm also interested in the vendor portion as well. I also want to see the long boxes and the merchandise and everything like that. So I guess I'm looking for a balance now. Up until I guess relatively recently in Pittsburgh, that's mainly what it was. It was just the big floor, and there was all the vendors with the long boxes and everything like that. I haven't been to any of the cons in Pittsburgh since Wizard has come in. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm about to get a huge culture shock other side of the coin, because in September I'm going to Dragon Con, which is mainly a pop culture con. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm open to the different experiences, but like if you say that you're a Comic Con, you should have some comics, probably. You know what I mean?
Right, right, and that's been kind of the discussion around San Diego Comic-Con as well, because I mean, the movies come in, you know, the Hollywood is there. How many shows are unveiled and have their you know, Q&As and everything, and everybody's, you know, piling into those rooms to see the stars and everything like that, and not necessarily shows related to comic books, you know, stuff like Supernatural, which I guess is kind of reverted back, and I'm sure there's a comic book element as well. But again, it's a geeky. It's kind of encompassed all geekiness on that level, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, like I don't mind when it brings in all these other like sci-fi and stuff like that. I have no issue with it. Like I said, like when I went to Philly, you know, the Philly Wizard, great, because they had a really good balance of that. They had a lot of publishers there. They had tons of long boxes, and then they had some like, you know, top. I think this was when Heroes was big, like right when Heroes came out. So they had like, you know, Hayden, whatever the hell her last name is. I can't say Panettiere.
Hayden Panettiere, I think.
Yeah, from the cheerleader.
Pantera. Yeah.
Like she was there. Yeah. One year I went, they had like Stone Cold was there. So it's like I like the mixture of these things. I just don't like it when those smaller vendors get pushed out and there's not a lot of good artists either. Like I like to go to a con and see my favorite creators, like the guy who put out the book I love, like a David Mack, you know, Brian Michael Bendis, or now I feel like since they've kind of shifted in that, I'm not going to get to see that I'm really interested in seeing that are working currently, like on Marvel Books, unless I go to a much bigger con where they're going to have that. Like at the smaller cons, they've kind of pushed that out in favor of more pop culture stuff. And so I feel like I'm missing out a little bit in the smaller market.
Well, and I think that's something that well, first let me I'll address that in a moment, but I kind of want to give my perspective as well, like what I look for in a con. Like I was a really big comic book collector until like probably about 10, 12, 13 years ago when I really got priced out in school. From reading them. And recently, over the last few years, partially thanks to Will here, and thanks to my local library, and thanks to other things like Marvel Unlimited and these great online services, really dive back into comics. I'm kind of in catch-up mode and everything. And I haven't really been too much of a artist follower or anything like that, so I'm not on that level. I'm more into them. When we first went to New York Comic Con, I was just up for the experience, right? And I think what was the first year we went was like maybe like 2011, perhaps.
That sounds about right.
I think that's the year you went, and even from then to when we went like 2 or 3 years later, like it had expanded about threefold in that building. You know, it is growing, and again, it is of course amassing that pop culture everything a little bit. Like, you know, what was some of the stuff we went when we went up to do, we were doing press the one year, and we ended up talking to the guys behind Voltron, the guys behind the South Park game, including like the head of like, you know, South Park creator studio and stuff like that. So again, it was it become a multimedia thing, you know, all kind of glommed onto this, but it's the same audience for the most part. I was freaking out over the He-Man stuff they were showing off, to be honest. Which is more a toy and cartoon kind of thing. So my view of a Comic-Con, again, not from that like super comic book, you know, follower, you know, I'm more exploratory today than I used to be. My big explorations was picking up a couple of Wildcats comics from Image, you know, like that was risky back in the day for me. But I also didn't have a lot of access to good comic book stores. So, and we didn't have the internet as prevalent as back then. So my take on that versus looking at what we did have in Pittsburgh, like we did have the Steel City Con. And I remember when the Steel City Con, I was actually there for a wrestling show. Actually, I was there before then when ICP was there, or not ICP themselves, but like they showed up with a booth and stuff and had a big kind of mini gathering kind of thing. You know, and it was and the Steel City Con kind of went through a rebranding, and they have it 3 times a year, and they're bringing in all these names like your Adam West and some of the old wrestlers and you know, this person that played this thing in the Star Wars movie 15 years ago, right? Or Chewbacca, because Chewbacca's at all these things. So it's become more of a geekathon thing. But when I saw Pittsburgh Comic Con, yeah, it had the long boxes and it had everything else. But what it didn't have, I thought, were the people, right? And I think I stated on the show, it felt like there was a problem. And again, my comparison points are the New York City cons of the last few years and the Baltimore Comic Cons. But when I can walk into like the back of a room where Stan Lee is in and actually get to like attend his conference, like it feels like something's wrong there, right? It wasn't attracting the people that should be excited about this in the city. And they're in the city, but I feel like that people didn't know about it. When they got moved downtown, and yeah, you got the David Duchovny and the Will Shatner, which I think is cool. But then the people showed up too, right? It needed to be a Pittsburgh Comic-Con and not the Monroeville Comic-Con. And much like when you go see that Baltimore Comic-Con right downtown, New York, right, I guess that's downtown. I know it's kind of all downtown, isn't it? Something really, really kind of that represented Pittsburgh and represented geeks in Pittsburgh. And that's where I thought it brought that in. And maybe somebody couldn't do it without the support of something that's like basically a chain like Wizard World, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that so like the Pittsburgh Comic Con, I mean, the first one I went to was probably in 95 or 90. Yeah. So 95 or 94. And I've been going to these cons for like ever. And back in the 90s, I mean, there were no issues. I mean, before we even hit this, what we have now, like this geek renaissance culture where everybody's becoming more geeky. Like in the 90s, they had no problems through the early 2000s with attendance at the con. But I think they just started to mismanage it. And I'm not going to go get into that because if you want to, you can read a lot of articles about the people that owned it beforehand, and the crazy family history they have. And it's not really surprising, but it just became, it's not easy to manage, especially in this changing economy. As also, you could also put that in there. I mean, our economy's changed, the internet's grown, things are becoming hard for them. So I think that Wizard stepped in. Like I said, I was really excited, because the Wizard cons I'd been to before were great, but now it's much more pop culture oriented, which I'm not against. Hey, I got my, Will Shatner autograph. I paid the cash and got to go see Kirk, but something that can kind of like fill in that gap. And maybe the guy from New Dimension is doing that with some of the cons he's been putting on, which unfortunately I haven't had the chance to get to one of them yet, because they're on a weekend where I'm like every year where I'm usually out of town, which is was it the Three Rivers Con happened not that long ago. Yeah. And I didn't get the chance to see it. And he's had some like mini ones as well. Like I think at like the Pittsburgh Mills New Dimension, and he just like has them when I'm out of town, so I can't go and check it out. But like, yeah, you're right. It's a great way. It's bringing in big names. I'm just a little sad that I don't have the long boxes to kind of troll through because, I think still CityCon has done a great job at kind of feeding some of that pop culture need as well. I mean, I have almost the entire cast of Next Generation signed First Contact poster. Nice. All I'm missing is, Sir Patrick Stewart, and I might get Will Wheaton to sign it, even though he wasn't in the movie. He wasn't in the movie, I know, but like, I feel like I need to have Will Wheaton sign it. So I think these things feel like for like an old school fanboy like me, like some of the I guess the parts that I like about it are just sliding away to kind of feed this big, money machine of let's get all of geek culture. And I just shed like a tiny little geek tear, pour one out for all my long boxes because it's just gone. Like it's a part of the culture that is slowly fading away in a lot of areas. And it's a fun part of the culture. Now, I'm excited, like where you said there's Silk's Dragon card I heard is a great con. And Emerald City I heard is pretty great. And Heroes Con, I think just was this weekend in North Carolina. I hear like a lot of those are kind of where at what San Diego used to be when it was still like a Comic Con before it got taken over by like mass media. And I have a buddy who just went to San Diego Con like probably 6 years ago. Like right when it pretty much it had already been taken over by media at that point. And he's a hardcore collector. I mean, he has, holy crap. Like I think he has over 30 long boxes now and I could be selling him short. He has like a whole basement of comics and he's just like, yeah, I didn't buy really anything there because it's just like, you have to wait in line to get everywhere. And you get on the floor, like it's just publishers and people pitching products, and there's no long boxes.
Right.
But that's expected for San Diego at this point.
Yeah. Do you think that it was?
Sorry, you know what happened.
No. Do you think it was San Diego that started all this? They're since Marvel came in and they started doing these huge, film announcements, and it became this place to announce this certain genre of film. Do you think it was San Diego that started all this?
I think, maybe the Marvel movies being so successful is kind of what pushed it this way. I think before Marvel was even big, though, they were already doing some pretty big media announcements at Comic-Con. It's probably only gotten worse since then. But I think each time Iron Man came out, because that's when I think my friend went. Like, he went, like, immediately after he got married, which was, I think, in 2007 and 2008. And it was already like that. Like, it had already pretty much become a media center thing, because they were already pushing, like, any type of sci-fi movie and stuff like that. So, but I think Marvel's success has definitely fed into it. Because, let's see, I was like, this is probably like maybe right Avengers came out. I have like a shit ton of comic book t-shirts. Like, I'm wearing one now. And it used to be like I never got beat up or made fun of it for even going to high school in like the 90s, but no one ever paid attention to it. And, I'm walking down the street, and I think I was visiting Chicago, and some like bro, like, early, probably like junior in college, like, looked at me like a guy who was like a jock style dude. Was like, dude, and I had a Wolverine shirt. He's like, that's a fucking awesome shirt. So now I have all these people outside of my grew up having, like, jocks, geeky and nerds, people, like all these jock type people are like, yo, dude, that's an awesome shirt. Like, when I have like an old Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back t-shirt. And if I wear that out, like, everybody, which I'm still surprised because that's Kevin Smith, but it's like, that's kind of like a certain era. And I'm surprised people even notice that. But a lot of times if I wear a comic book shirt now, like, I get a lot of compliments, like, from people I would never expected to get a compliment from 15 years ago. So my mind just like, I was just sitting here, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, the world has changed. Like, teenage me would have no, I mean, I would be cool with, like, I'm obviously cool with it, but it's just like, such a change in culture from when I was younger and I was really into it. Like, I've been collecting comic books since the early 90s. So it's awesome. Like, I'm not one of those people who are complaining about the growth and outreach, because anytime someone new gets into comics, I don't care if it's from the movies. Like, there's awesome books, and that leads to more people getting into it, and that leads to even people are like able to go out and put indie books out a lot easier now. There's a lot of great web comics out there. So any way people can get into comic books, I'm great with. It's just that sad loss of some of the old school like experience that, like me now, I have to travel further somewhere else to go experience it. It's not gone yet, but it's definitely not at the same level it used to be, because Wizard World used to be one of those places, like, they had a shit ton of good comic vendors there, and now, I don't know, like, that's what I would like to see what Chilla thinks, because I know he goes to Philly every year.
Yeah. And like
and
we
maybe
said,
ask him to send an update on how, if they still have, like, the floor with a lot of books out there.
we'll make sure he has a good comment on here afterwards, so maybe as a statement for this. But I think like the problem that you're seeing is the good that the geeks won, right? Will, you may have also listened to the same interview I did. I think it was CM Punk on the Nerdist, because he was still in WWE at the time, and I know he was starting to, he was writing like a forward, I think, for Avengers X-Men, and of course he's been involved with a couple writing gigs as far as comic books go as well. And he was talking about, I was like, listen, this is like comic books have become art, and it's become the mass thing. And again, I think it's a good statement. I don't care where they came from as long as they're getting into comic books. We see the same thing when we do watch wrestling, because like Total Divas is like a really horrible reality show, but women are getting into pro wrestling, and it's like, well, if that's a door for them to enter, we're glad to have you. So I think in the long run, like, this is Wizard's going to grow, because if it didn't grow, it's going to go away. You know what I mean? And it's kind of brought because I started following the feed after Pittsburgh last year. I noticed it is the same looking con, it seems, from place to place. And as I get a message in the chat room at live.sorgatronmedia.com from our boy Wheels, he says he's looking at his 94 Ultra Fleer X-Men cards right now to show you where he's at in his geekdom. So, I think we all had a couple of those at least. But anyways,
Yep.
What's that? No?
Yep.
Yep.
Oh no, I still have a set of I think 93 and Marvel Universe cards like in the next room.
I have
So I can they're the ones that like you put 9 together and they made a big picture.
Oh, nice. And then you glue them to a piece of paper. Nope. But this is kind of a symptom of that. This is a symptom of that. But I think there's a lot of room for others to slide in. Like I think still CityCon like has its place. Like next to Wizard World, that's a different experience. Obviously, they're more toy, aiming directly at that pop culture people we can get to sign autographs to bring people in the door kind of experience, and that's fine. But then you mentioned, of course, there are things like the Pittsburgh Indie Comic Expo is another one that's around PIX 2016, which is this past already? Actually, this was back on April 2nd, and Three Rivers Con, as you mentioned. There are those experiences, and we're just talking about Pittsburgh. Like this is going to be different from town to town. And I think in the long run, if you look from city to city, like for the size of what Pittsburgh is, we are very lucky to have a community of comic book people like this, independents and otherwise, that we do have options. Like there's a Three Rivers Comic Con, there's a PIX, and then we also have the big time Wizard World down there at the convention center. We get to actually go to a nice convention center and have this other experience. I'm a big fan of that myself, and kind of that growth of that. I want to get to Dan Greenwald's comments. He sent us a couple over. Of course, he's a Comic Book Pit. Check out the Comic Book Pit on iTunes and wherever else fine podcasts are sold. And definitely check it. Long time. Again, comes from the creator perspective as well as a fan. When I first went to Pittsburgh Comic Con, I went along with him. I was like, hey, let's get some interviews. Introduce me to your culture. And I got to meet a lot of the guys and girls involved in stuff around here and kind of get an air of what that was. And there is a very strong culture around that. So he says he's got, of course, very opinions because he's able to see it from the point of view of a fan, a creator, and a member of the press, most recently being in the front lines working for the convention. It's hard to say if there is one definitive thing that makes a convention good, whether it's a megacon like Wizard World, and I think that's a classification. Like it is a megacon. It is trying to be, at least on a level it can in Pittsburgh, like a New York City, a C2E2, and a San Diego, right? So, I mean, that's their agenda right there. Or he says, or a small regional con like the new Three Rivers Comic Con. In his opinion, it's almost hard not to have a good time at any of these comic book conventions. I mean, these shows are basically extensions of our shared childhood. And I have to admit, I love reliving my younger days through comics and pop culture. I can't really think of one show where I left and thought, well, that was a waste of my time and or money. I guess the common denominator is the person themselves. Whether it's a fanboy looking for back issues, Diggy, that's you, right? And up and coming,
sometimes,
and up and coming artists trying to pitch their comic, the cosplayer who spent weeks on their costume, the blogger covering the show, or the volunteer working the door. I think it depends both on your attitude and what you specifically are looking to get out of the show. Yeah, I think it's kind of the case because that was one thing I noticed. There was one of the. Was it maybe Comic-Con the movie? No, wait, that's the Mark Hamill one. But there was, what was the main like Comic-Con like documentary that came out a couple years ago? But they were following cosplayers, and then they were following collectors, and they were very much like, and I think it was specifically they were doing San Diego Comic-Con, and they.
Oh, it was called Chronicon.
Chronicon.
It was Doug Benson. And it was Chronicon episode 420, New Dope.
I think that's a different. I think. Are you sure?
No, is that different?
I think that's different. I think yes, but a little different. There was, Yes, but also
you're thinking of it's Morgan Spurlock did it, and it's Comic-Con: A
right.
Fan's Hope. I'm pretty sure.
Right. You're right. You're absolutely right. Worth watching if you haven't. I know I caught it on Netflix shortly after it came out. I'm sure it's on something, Hulu, something today. Look it up. Definitely watch that if you're curious about it. If you've never been to San Diego Comic-Con. But that is like my mission is, typically I'm covering the event or I have a booth that, I've had at Steel City Comic Con and Pittsburgh Comic Con trying to sell something that's not comic books, right? And trying to tap into that culture kind of sideways from whatever I have to sell, usually around pro wrestling, right? And say, hey guys, there's this over here. And there's a lot of cross section there. That's obviously grown up a lot with something like these MegaCons. So you have a lot of people doing that. You have Scarehouse there hanging out saying, hey guys, you probably a lot of you guys like haunted houses. Let's go check us out in October, right? So and basically like Chilla, I think mostly goes to see the experience, take pictures of the cosplayers, and just hang out around geeks. You know what I mean? Or I know if I have a mission. I do have a mission at every Comic-Con. I've done this since I think the first time we went in New York City. Comic-Con all those years ago, and that's the year where I found now a good friend of the Wrestling Mayhem show, Mike Kingston, with the Headlock comic book, which was a really good connection there. But I always have a mission to purchase at least one thing from an artist I've never heard of before. Independent artists typically, but that's kind of it, and everything else is just kind of gravy on top of that, and just going, seeing the experience. Whatever that case may be, especially these mega cons. So, and I don't come with a lot of money in my pocket just because I will buy everything that I freaking can when I go to those things. So, that's kind of my kind of angle on it. Will, what's your typical kind of aim when you go to something like those?
Generally, what I'll do is I'll go and walk the floor. Just see everything that there is to see, what booths there are, because, usually I treat it like gambling. I go in, I'm going to spend X amount of dollars, and I don't want to spend it too soon and then see something a few booths down and be furious with myself. You know what I mean? So I like to see everything that they have to offer, and just kind of make the rounds at the bigger ones, like at New York Comic Con. I love to take in the spectacle, the massive humanity, and the cosplay is always incredible to see. I try to take a couple of pictures, and I always hold back a few dollars for the artist alley as well, because like you said, you want to buy something from an artist that you've never heard of, but their art looks cool. You go, you strike up a conversation, get to know them, and buy something. And that usually works for me. Now, the cons that I've gone to haven't had very big panels. I know Dragon Con is known more for its panels than anything else. I'm hoping to catch a few live podcast recordings.
Ooh.
The people I'm going with to Dragon are heavy cosplayers. So I know I'm going to be hanging out with them a lot, and just kind of seeing the cosplay scene. There's the cosplay parade as well. I think it just started raining very furiously here. Sorry if you lose me.
That's okay.
But yeah, mainly I think Dragon is going to be cosplay and panels, mainly because, again, I will have X amount of dollars to spend, and I have to be careful with where I spend it.
Mm-hmm. Plus that overpriced concession food.
I'm so jealous.
Diggy.
I want to go to Dragon. I've heard so many good things about it. It's one of the cons I want to get to.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of lucked into it because I had a couple of friends that go every year, so they already had an arrangement for hotels and everything like that. So they had an extra slot, and I've been paying off everything like segment by segment, like paying for the hotel rooms and paying for the airplane and paying for the costume and the props and stuff. And so
that's kind of like me. I have my big vacation that I do here every year in the summer, the Gathering of the Juggalos, and I have the hotel room because that's the hard part. Getting the ticket is easy, and I haven't gotten that yet. But I'll have to cross my fingers. Maybe I'll get a press pass or something. So, Diggy, let's check out with you. Like, you talked about the long boxes and everything, but like generally, like, is that your goal, or is there more of the experience that you really kind of target looking at these things? And it can be different from con to con too.
I think that's really it for me. I think the difference in con to con, it depends on like who's going to be at that con. It depends on how much money I have in my pocket. Currently, I'll go through and see like who are the guests. Like Still City Con is like put a giant dent in my wallet because of all they've got. And like they're not wizard level quality guests, but they still get a really good quality guest. Like they may not be A stars, but they're definitely B stars. Like I said, almost the whole main cast of Next Generation. And the majority of the living cast of the original show, minus Shatner, who came for Wizard World anyways. So recently I've been like getting movie posters and things to get signed by people like that. That's been a big thing. I am slowly trying to put together an Amazing Spider-Man run. So I may go in and check out what Spider-Man books they have. If I'm looking at something in particular and see some prices, if there's something in my price range, I'll snag it. Like I recently at WizardCon, I did find like this one dude had like a bunch of like pop vinyls, toys, and then like three, like probably like 3 books long of like just like some older comic books. And I got the first appearance of the Hobgoblin in there. So it's an aim to get a book that I'm really looking for and see what the prices are and try and get it. And then probably go find some like weird stuff. Like I like it still sit on. There's usually that guy with like 2 tables of like old trading cards. So I'll buy a couple packs and then I'll just send them to random people. Like they won't know they're getting. I'll just be like, I need your address. They're like, why? What are you doing? And I'm like, don't fucking worry about it. And then they'll get some Back to the Future 2 cards or stickers from like 1988.
I love that guy. I do the same thing.
Yeah,
I love mailing
Rambo
cards.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I like finding some weird stuff to get. Some stuff that people might not necessarily find enjoyment at. Like I think at this Still City Con, I got a in the card Rick Hunter Matchbox figure, which I accidentally dropped and bent, but I only spent $15. Yeah, it did. Like you said, it really depends on the con. Like I think after I've been in grad school for a while, so I haven't been like really trying to like get into my collection and further it. And I'm also trying to like figure out how much of it I want to keep, how much of it do I kind of want to get rid of. Cause I probably got like around like 20 long boxes right now. And I don't need all these books, but I definitely want to keep some of them that I have like either a nostalgic value to it or some of them are actually worth money. And then maybe go in and put some smaller weird book collections together, like a Generation X. I wouldn't mind having that run of books or weird 90s books that I have some weird nostalgia for.
Awesome. He's kind of he's the more straight up comic book fan, I think, than maybe us looking for the wide experience. So, but that's awesome. That's completely awesome. So there's a lot of options, and I'm kind of curious. We kind of put the question out. Hey, what do you look for the cons? What's your mission on cons? What do you think about the state of those versus a Wizard World or something like that? And let us know on comments to this if you're finding this video on YouTube or Facebook or on Twitter at AwesomeCast. And of course, if you think any of us are individually right or wrong, I'm at Sorgatron on Twitter. That over there is DJ Lunchbox, or more appropriately, you should probably direct things at his at Panel Riot Twitter, right?
That's correct. Yes, Intern Stan is watching it 24/7.
Yes, he is, and also Intern Stan on the Twitter as well. And and it's probably it's one of my top 3. I'm not picking a favorite one person show, one man shows as far as the podcast goes, because it's mostly just you talking about comic books for like 45 minutes.
I try to get a guest or an interview on every now and then, but yeah, more often than not, I just read some comics and then talk about them.
Geez, we are way overdue talking about Transformers comics, because holy crap, I did not think I could enjoy Transformers comics this much. Dare I say, maybe more than the 1986 animated film. I didn't think this was possible. Absolutely not.
High praise.
High praise. And I own that on three different copies of that movie. So, and I still need to get the Blu-ray. Diggy is at Diggy on the Twitter. You can talk to him.
That's true.
Sounds like he has some stuff he's looking for. So, if you want to get at him and get some trading on, at Diggy on the Twitters, right?
Yeah, that's where you can find me.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for instigating this kind of side episode here. You can, of course, check out. We talk a little more tech and awesome things and geeky things, but mostly more tech over on AwesomeCast, awesomecast.net for the main show. Subscribe to the show, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Facebook. We're live here from time to time, and on all of those. And, of course, every Tuesday about, we'll say 7 p.m. Eastern Time, live.sorgatronmedia.com. So thank you to my awesome Comic-Con panel. Thank you to Dan Greenwald for sending in some comments as well. Thank you to our live audience that was hanging out with us on the live stream. Wheels, I know you're always there. You're the MVP hanging with your 94 Ultra Fleer X-Men cards over there. And everybody else, a couple other names in there as well. But they're fake because that's how the chat room works. But thank you very much. You have been our awesome audience. Have an awesome Comic-Con wherever that may be. There you go. All righty. So I think I'm going to
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on, man. I think I'm going to post this about a week from now because I actually don't have an interview lined up for next week. So I figure I'll just kind of fill that hole with this. LB, do you want this for your feed as well, perhaps?
Yeah, if you send it to me whenever you just send me the audio and
Yeah,
I'll
of
do
course.
a quick little introduction and then post it on mine.
Okay.
Do like
And
a
I
special edition.
I'm going to put it up as like additional in the same feed myself. So I didn't know if you wanted to replace an episode with this or anything, but I think it's nice additional content to kind of throw in on top of things. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Alrighty. Well, thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, cool beans.
I'm going to go hang out with my wife.
All right, have a good one. Nice to meet you.
All right.
Nice meeting
See you,
you.
Mike.
See you
Thanks,
guys.
See you guys at Wizard World.